Between two rivers, something began. Not just cities or kings or wars, but the very idea of civilization itself. The Sumerians called it the land between the rivers. We call it Mesopotamia, and this is its story. Our journey begins with Sumer, around 4500 BCE. Here, humanity built the first true cities, Ur, Uruk, Eridu. Each was a world unto itself, ruled by kings who answered to gods, and gods who demanded ziggurats touch the sky. The Sumerians gave us writing, cuneiform, pressed into clay with reed styluses. At first, just records of grain and sheep. But soon, stories, laws, poetry. They gave us the wheel, not just for carts, but for pottery, for trade, for civilization to move forward. Between the unpredictable rivers, they tamed water itself with canals and dikes, turning desert into breadbasket. The Tigris and Euphrates gave life and took it away just as easily. The Sumerians learned to respect both. They recorded everything: trade agreements, laws, even the Epic of Gilgamesh, humanity's first great story, about a king who sought immortality and found only wisdom. They watched the stars, divided time into 60, and laid foundations for astronomy and mathematics. That would outlast their empire by 5,000 years. But Sumer's city-states, brilliant as they were, could not stand alone forever. The land between the rivers was about to unite, under one king, one empire, one name. By 2334 BCE, a man named Sargon rose from obscurity. Legend says a gardener's son, cupbearer to a king, to unite all Mesopotamia under the world's first empire. Sargon of Akkad didn't just conquer cities. He conquered the very idea of how power worked. He centralized authority, appointed loyal governors, and created a model every future empire would copy. The Akkadian language became the language of power, of trade, of communication across borders. Sumerian lived on, but Akkadian ruled. At its height, the Akkadian Empire stretched from the Gulf to the Mediterranean. Roads connected distant cities. Trade networks carried goods and ideas further than ever before. Akkadian military innovation, professional armies, composite bows, battle tactics made them unstoppable. For over a century, Sargon's grandson, Naram-Sin, declared himself God-King. His victory stele shows him ascending a mountain, larger than life, closer to heavens than to men. Hubris, perhaps, or simply Akkadian ambition reaching its peak. But empires, like rivers, can dry up. Around 2150 BCE, climate shifted. Drought came. Famine followed. Subject peoples revolted. Invaders smelled weakness. The Akkadian Empire fell. But its template, one ruler, one language, one law for all, would rise again, and again, and again. From the ashes of Akkad, new powers emerged. But none would shine quite like Babylon. Babylon, the name alone evokes power and mystery. Rising to prominence around 1894 BCE, this city would become Mesopotamia's cultural and intellectual heart. Under King Hammurabi, Babylon gave the world one of its first comprehensive legal codes, 282 laws carved in stone for all to see. An eye for an eye. The code declared, but also protected widows, orphans, the weak from the strong. Babylon was a crossroads of the world. Caravans arrived from distant lands, bringing tin, lapis lazuli, cedar. Ideas traveled with goods. The Ishtar Gate, jewel of Babylon, blue like the heavens. Guarded by dragons and lions, it welcomed visitors into the most magnificent city of its age. Imagine approaching these walls, knowing you'd reached the center of the world. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, whether legend or reality, they symbolize Babylon's ability to make even nature obey its will. Trees on mountains in the middle of Mesopotamia. Babylonian astronomers mapped the heavens, predicted eclipses, named constellations we still recognize. They gave us the 60-minute hour, the 360-degree circle. When you check your watch, you're using Babylonian math. But Babylon's first great age could not last. The Hittites sacked the city. Others followed. Babylon fell, waited, and would rise again, more spectacular than ever, under Nebuchadnezzar. As Babylon slept, another power stirred in the north, harder, fiercer, ready to build the largest empire Mesopotamia had ever seen, the Assyrians, history's first great military machine. From their capital at Nineveh, they built an empire, stretching from Mesopotamia to Egypt, from Anatolia to the Gulf. Assyrian warfare was systematic, brutal, and terrifying. They perfected siegecraft, used iron weapons for advantage, and spread terror as a deliberate strategy. Enemy cities knew, resist, and face annihilation. But the Assyrians were more than warriors. Their palaces at Nineveh, Nimrud, and Ashur were covered in intricate reliefs. Not just propaganda, but art of extraordinary skill. Every muscle on every lion, every fold of every garment, carved in stone. King Ashurbanipal, unlike most warrior kings, could read. He built Mesopotamia's greatest library, collecting tablets from across his empire. When he copied old Sumerian texts, he preserved our window into the dawn of writing. At its height, Nineveh was the world's largest city, home to perhaps 100,000 people. Parks, temples, libraries, and walls so wide chariots raced atop them. The Assyrian Empire dominated the Near East for 3 centuries. They built roads, established postal systems, and administered their vast territory with ruthless efficiency. But iron swords could not stop time. In 612 BCE, a coalition of enemies sacked Nineveh so completely that its ruins would be mistaken for mere hills for 2,000 years. Yet Assyria's legacy outlived its ruins. Their military organization influenced Persia, Rome, every empire that followed. Their art set standards for millennia. And their library, though burned, baked its tablets into permanence. The empires fell. The cities crumbled. The languages died. But between these 2 rivers, humanity learned to write its name. To build, to trade, to pray, to record, to remember. The clay cracked. The stone eroded. The bronze rusted. But the story stayed.